everybody, and welcome to another installment of Chatter About the Chatter at Men's Radio Station. I'm your host, I am Cuddy Cudworth. As always, loving presenting this show, actually. I know we do this on a monthly basis. Today's going to be a pretty cool show for everybody. I'm genuinely excited about today's guest, and we've got so much to talk about. I'm going to fill for a few minutes just to let him get settled and get nice and calm, because it was only about 4 minutes before the show started. How are you, Veronica? How you doing? Veronica, it's a good show. I'm so glad you're in today, Veronica. Thanks for popping in. So today's show is called From Beating the Big C to Winning the BGT. And we've got a guest. And we've got a guest who I've known for quite a while. And we've had some cracking chats. And I reached out to him, and I was just genuinely over the moon when he said, yeah, not a problem. That'll be absolutely fine. That he would come on and do the show and spread the good word of this gentleman. Now, there's a few things we're going to touch on, but it's going to be chatting today about a journey of going through absolutely everything and coming out on top. And it should be a fabulous story. I've known Jon for quite a few years from my previous work, so it's absolutely going to be a fascinating chat. So I'm generally excited about it. We're also going to be talking about the change of year, and I'm going to just touch on a little bit at the end on the acronym SAD, seasonally affected depression as well, which can turn up at this time of year, especially with the clocks going back. It can be something that really does show up in a lot of people's lives. So it's something I wanted to touch on today. But before we get into that, that'll just be the last 5 minutes of the show. I want to bring in today's guest. And I know he's feeling a little bit under the weather. So let's welcome in, Cena, if you can. Let's bring in Jon Courtney, everybody.
I'm here. I made it. I like to keep you on your toes.
Honestly, 4 minutes before the show, and I'm like, it's 3 minutes before showtime. Do I need a link? Yes, you need a link, Jon Courtney. Yes, you need a link.
You should see the stress on my tour manager's face when I do the same thing backstage. Like, I'm just finishing my dinner in a restaurant down the road. What time's showtime? In 2 minutes. Oh, okay, I'll make it. It's all good. How are you, Cuddy? It's nice to see you, pal.
It is really nice to see you, Jon. And I know it's been a long time since we worked together. I think, if I'm correct me wrong, Independence of the Seas.
Yeah,
no, possibly. It was Independence of the Seas.
Yeah, just don't tell me how many years ago. So many people have been doing that to me recently. It's scaring the hell out of me. Life's going far too quickly.
I know, but first of all, I have to say, massive gratitude. I know you're on a UK tour right now. I know your time is precious, probably limited. Once you reach the heights that you reach, everybody's like, Jon, can you just do this for me? Jon, can you just do this for me? Whereas I'm sure there was a time when you were sat there thinking, I wish somebody would just be saying, can you just do this for me? Can you do this for me? Right. And you're there. You're living that right now.
Yeah. You won't hear me complaining. I mean, the tour is obviously great fun. And I sort of hit a wall a few days ago. I mean, it's pretty manic. We don't have the budgets of the big tours, obviously. It's my first UK tour. All the theatres are still struggling across the country with ticket sales and stuff, especially for sort of, not for your Michael McIntyres maybe and your Peter Kays, but for your people that are sort of your middle of the road guys. People are still nervous about coming out, but the people that are coming out are absolutely lovely. So we've been slogging our little hearts out up and down the country. And I had 5 days off this week. So it was a pleasure to fit you in, but thank goodness it's from my home and my studio, because I can't walk much further. I'm at the point of exhaustion, but I'm back out. So actually, I've got a gig Saturday. I'm doing a charity ball on Saturday and then back to the theatre tour on Sunday. So I should be all right by then. But yeah, apologies to any listeners. I have got a bit of a cough thing going on. So if I suddenly have a cough meltdown, then I apologize, but I'll do my best.
Absolutely, honestly, thank you so much. It means so much to us. And now I'm gonna throw back a few memories for you as well. Veronica's made a really good. Now, Veronica's one of our firm listeners here. She comes on, she pops up, and she goes, he was fantastic. He was very much like Victoria Wood. Do you get that reference quite a lot these days, Jon?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a huge, flattering comment of people. I mean, all those people, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, whatever we do, aren't we, really? I think generally it's been lovely comments, people saying, I love Victoria Wood and I love you and that sort of thing. But you've got to be careful when you're doing something that's so identifiable as something that somebody else does, not to say, anybody saying he's not as good as, or he's copying or that sort of thing. So you've got to be, there's always that risk, that, I'm inspired by everybody going right back to Victor Borger back in the 1950s. My dad told me about Victor Borger, and I watched his stuff. Just brilliant. And then Tom Lehrer, Flanders and Swan, Dudley Moore, right up to date with Bill Bailey, Tim Minchin. I'm a huge fan of. I think he's great. But you've got to sort of try and find your own thing, haven't you? Which is tricky if you get influenced by too many people. But yeah, I'm out there. I think I'm doing my own thing, trying to.
And now you're becoming the influencer.
I don't know about that.
That's true. Now, John, there's going to be people that's going to come along, and there'll be people come up and say, "Oh, do you know what? You remind me of Jon Courtney, and he was really good." And now, right?
Maybe. That'd be lovely. Yeah. I mean, it's nice meeting the people that have been coming to my shows. I've met quite a few youngsters that are sort of learning piano or want to get into comedy and stuff. And it's lovely when they say that, they ask me for advice, which is hilarious because I really haven't got. I've said the same advice. I've been asked to do workshops for people for like, dramatic companies and kids theaters and stuff like that. Can you do us a workshop? I've never done or been to a workshop, so I have no idea what they are or how they work. But of course, I'm happy to do these things if I've got the time to do them. So yeah, the first workshop I ever did, I said, "Who's been to a workshop before?" And a few of the kids put their hands up. I says, "Great. How does it work?" And we sort of took it from there. But I mean, the only advice that I've given to anybody is just to say, if you want to be in this business, you've got to want it more than anything else in your life, because there's going to be days when you cry yourself to sleep because you've had a horrible night, or you failed an audition, or you've been told you're too fat or too thin or too tall or whatever it is, not good enough. And it's a horrible thing to be a sensitive artist and to be told that you're not good enough. It cripples you, and you've got to go to bed that night, cry yourself to sleep, and then get up the next day and still want to do it all over again. So that's the only advice, just perseverance. I mean, I didn't think I was going to get a break in my life. I thought I was doing all right. I had a nice career doing my shows. I wasn't big time by any means. Nobody really knew who I was except the people in my audiences. And I was all right. I was providing for my family. We didn't sort of go without. We didn't have a lavish lifestyle. And then finally, my kids convinced me to do BGT. So I got a break in the end. But yeah, there you go.
There's so much more to that journey, and we're going to deep dive that journey. And honestly, the last show that we did was Mick Miller, actually.
Oh,
we were talking
Mick.
about Mick's still comedy genius, a comedy genius.
One of the few comics who still makes me laugh out loud. I think watching a comedian as a comedian, you end up watching it and analyzing it too much. And I've watched great comedians, and I think they're amazing, but they don't necessarily make me laugh out loud because I'm too busy analyzing it and watching what they do. It ruins it a bit. Same with movies. If you're into movies, you end up watching how they've made it. But Mick still makes me laugh out loud. I mean, nothing beats Noddy. Oh my God, it's the best. Anyway.
That's true. We were talking about the Noddy sketch. I said, still to this day, I mean, I'm 44 and I still remember the Noddy sketch. My dad remembers the Noddy sketch. It's an absolute comedy classic. So the premise of the show, John, is it's chatter about the chatter, and it's that internal conversations that we can have. And you briefly touched on it there about all the failed auditions, about the times where you get told, no, you're not good enough. And I've definitely got some stories that I'm not 100% sure whether I've shared with you from my previous job when I was the cruise director, and we had to go through all the comments, and people would always come up and talk to me about the shows and all those kind of things. Yeah. And I will touch on that. There's a few things I remember about you, John, and we have to share it. Is you were one of the only acts that came on board and actually sent an email shoreside and said, "Thank you so much. Total gratitude for letting me play." And we just got great support from the management team on board. And it got sent back to us on the ship, and I'm like, "You're the only act to do that, Jon Courtney."
Really?
Fantastic. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
That's a bit sad, really. But no, I mean, you go. I used to love coming on your ship. I mean, most of the ships that I worked on, the people were great. And I tell you what, I really appreciate it now. Now we're doing. I mean, the tech in the theaters is great. Let me start off by saying that. But we've got to lug all our gear in. I mean, we literally set up an entire stage with a baby grand piano, which is not actually a real baby grand piano, but it looks like one. And we have screens and projectors and lights and cables. And we travel with a tour bus full, a truck full, basically. And I'm actually missing the days of turning up with a suit carrier onto a ship and walking into a fully built theater, having a tech run for 20 minutes and then doing 2 shows. I'm working my socks off now. So I appreciate it even more now. Yeah. No, it was fun. My cruise career. I enjoyed it.
That's fantastic. Honestly, and the memory. And that was the thing. I remember the first time I saw you on BGT, it was an advert clip. And I wasn't one for watching Britain's Got Talent that much at all. I think it was because of COVID. I was at home watching, and I just saw the advertisement come on. And I just said to my wife, I'm like, that's a clip of Jon Courtney. And that's why I text you. I scooched it right into your DMs. I'm like, are you on BGT this year? Because you're not allowed to talk about it, right?
Well, yeah, because it was filmed we filmed it in January, but we weren't allowed to say anything. It wasn't broadcast till April. And by then, the world had changed quite a bit. But no, I had 4 months of keeping it quiet. I couldn't tell anybody about the Golden Buzzer or the fact that I was on it. Or I think I could tell people that I was auditioning for it, but wasn't allowed to say anything else. So, I mean, a few people, a few sort of close friends had sort of said, "Are you on BGs?" The cat got out the bag somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, I kept it quiet. I mean, they asked us to film the reactions of all our family when it was broadcast. And by then, of course, everybody was using Zoom. So I had a Zoom screen of all my cousins and uncles and aunties. We had about 50 people on this Zoom call. And I recorded the screen, and it's still one of the most emotional things for me to watch because none of them knew about the buzzer. My mum did, and my wife, obviously, but a few others. Well, my wife was there, so she knew about it. But we recorded this Zoom screen, and to see my family sort of breaking down and being so emotional when they saw it happen, it was, it was amazing.
I mean, it really was. It genuinely was. And I always remember when I used to be stood off to the stage because I used to always watch the shows and things like that. And to see people on the ships, because when the entertainment's flown in, we always get I mean, Royal Caribbean was absolutely fantastic for getting the best entertainment. It genuinely was and stuff like that. And then you would have quite a lot of people walk out when you're on it. Get it out, have a cough, you're absolutely fine. So when you're on the stage and you're doing your shows and you see people walk out, how does that affect your? I'm sure it doesn't happen anymore. Now you've got that little BGT Golden Buzzer badge on it. That's like the Blue Peter badge of awards, isn't it? I mean, that really is. You're going to be able to use that for years.
I hope so. I'm relying on it now.
So when you were working on the ships and you were playing middle of the week, middle of the cruise, sometimes our guests were tired from the shows and stuff like that, and you see people walking out when you're doing your shows and you're playing your heart out and you're telling your stories, which were always beautiful, so well put together. That emotional attachment that you have to your shows are phenomenal, especially that you always played it back to your family and how you grow up, John. It was a beautiful show. It genuinely was. So
Thanks,
honestly, you sit in awe, especially as a cruise director that's not really got that many skills. And you watch the acts that come in who have got skills. You're like, oh, that's just amazing how he's put that together. And you can see some people in the audience going, oh. And then you see some people going, oh, I'm up for Rome, Civitavecchia in the morning. I better get off, look. We've got to get out.
I used to quite like it. I mean, the best part of my show for me was always the spontaneity. If people coming in late or people leaving early, I think I was quite lucky. I didn't used to see, because I was doing comedy. You'd see some sort of stand-up guys. I always avoided religion and politics. There was maybe a few. They say religion, politics, and sex, don't they? I used to sort of talk about ex-girlfriends and stuff, and there was a bit of a reference to a love life, but nothing offensive. And I think over the years, I just sort of found this angle of not rocking the boat, excuse the pun, too much. It was there wasn't really anything that offensive. I mean, if people did leave, maybe they were tired or whatever. But yeah, I was doing it for a lot of years. But if people used to leave, it gave me something to have a bit of a joke with. I used to have little songs ready to sing to them coming in late, or if they were leaving, I'd make up a song or something. And I think the audiences appreciate it because they knew it was spontaneous, because you don't know if somebody's going to get up and leave or come in late or whatever. So I'd try and make a thing out of it. And after the show, that would be the thing. They'd say, oh, the funniest bit was when you picked on so-and-so coming in or so-and-so going out. So I didn't. So long as they weren't leaving in droves. And I remember watching one comic who I actually can't remember his name. It was many, many years ago. Oh, yes, I can. He worked under the name Mr. X. You would have never had him on Raw, I don't think. He was pretty appalling back in the day. But apparently he used to work under a different name and he wasn't getting any work. So he started working under the name Mr. X. And then he'd turn up for a booking and they'd be like, oh, you're whatever. I don't know what his real name was. But by then it was too late. They'd booked him. And he was awful. And I watched an audience go from, I think it wasn't a huge theatre. It was one of these smaller ships, maybe 400 or 500 people. And he was left with about 20 at the end of his show. He lost of hundreds of people in a small theatre. And he just kept on, just pretended he couldn't see them leaving. And it was pretty bad. So it was never that bad for me, thank goodness. But I never minded it.
That's brilliant. So I mean, you mentioned that your kids pushed you forward for BGT then.
Yeah, I mean, we'd always watched it. I mean, to be honest, I never watched the whole episode because I was normally working. On a, if it was a Saturday, if I wasn't away at sea, I was a hotel or a corporate or something. So my wife would often record it for me, and then we'd, like everybody, we'd watch the bad and the good, the train wreck TV, and then the good stuff. Oh, this guy was on BGT. And, I'd watch sort of clips and I had friends that had been on it as well. Steve Hewlett's a great friend of mine who came, I think he came third. Paul Zerdin, who won America's Got Talent. I've worked with Paul over the years. And a lot of them had sort of said to me, you should do it. It's a great experience. And when my kids said it as well, Dad, why don't you go on TV? You could be famous, that like kids do. But I always had the same excuse. I just said, well, my one-man show has got a bit of stand-up. It's got singing. It's got comedy. It used to have comedy magic as well. I used to do all kinds of stuff in the show. And I said, how do I choose what to do in 3 minutes? That's all you have for the audition. And it was a mutual friend of ours, Jamie Allen, who I think you've worked with a few times.
Yeah, Jamie. Yeah.
Jamie and I had known each other since we were very young. And he saw my show on a ship. And he hadn't seen my show for about 4 or 5 years. We just passed each other like you do. And after he had some experience with BGT and AGT. And it was a positive experience for him. He had a good time on there and got some good exposure and stuff. And he said to me, why don't you go on the show? And I said the same thing. I don't know what I'd do. And it was Jamie who said, why don't you write an original song about auditioning for the show and then sing about it when you're auditioning on the show? And I said, we'd had a couple of beers at this point, like you do. And I said, oh, that sounds crazy. And I wrote it that night. I went back to my room and sort of wrote the basis of my audition song. It just sort of I think, that age-old question, where does creativity come from? Nobody knows.
I was going to ask that next.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no answer. You just hope that it comes. I've done a lot of writing under pressure recently. A lot of stuff for corporate work and charities and whatever it is. Write us a song for this gig and write us a song for this product, and that's hard because I'm not inspired to do it. Unless it's a paycheck or something. I'm like, well, I don't know this company, I don't know this person, but you hope that it comes from somewhere. You hope that the creativity comes, and it certainly did for the audition song. I wrote it in about half an hour, and once it was written, I played it the next day to Jamie. I said I might have something, and I played him the sort of first version of the song, and he went, mate, that's so good. You have to send this off. And I knew one of the producers on the show, so I sent it to him and said, could you send this on to the senior people and see if it's something that I could do on the show? And they got quite excited about it. They said, yeah, come and audition. So that's how it started. So
let's talk about that internal chatter that as I've always called it, the monkey mind. So when you've had, because I've spoke to some other acts, and you said you had you'd met some of the acts who had a positive experience about BGT.
Yeah.
Are you aware of some acts that have not had a positive experience at BGT?
A couple of people that I knew had gone for it and hadn't been broadcast or for whatever reason, and I knew that they'd gone for it, and we had a conversation very much off the record, and they didn't find it a good experience. So I was still torn by it, really. See, I think back in the day, I mean, in the early days of it, I think before Simon had his son Eric, before he became a dad, he softened a lot since he's become a dad, I think. But back in the early days, he was quite cruel. I mean, there's this thing about sort of being honest, which he was. If somebody was bad, he'd tell them they're bad. But you'd see a little kid up there or something singing his heart out and not being very good. And Simon would say, the worst thing I've ever. You think, oh, come on, he's just a kid. But then quite often he'd say, you might be good enough on a cruise ship. And he'd dismiss somebody as being a cruise ship out.
He used to do that.
Yeah. And he stopped doing it after a while because I think one of his producers had a word and said, a lot of our great acts that we're getting on a lot of the pro acts that are coming on the show are working on cruise ships. So, you need to pack it. For whatever reason, he did stop doing it. So that was one of the excuses that I had shot down about. I said, well, I can't go on it in case he says you might be good enough on a cruise ship. It was, I mean, I certainly didn't think I was going to win it. The thing that swung it for me when I sent this song off, that first of all, I had the material, I had the song that I'd written, and I thought, I'd written something, and I thought, this is kind of good. It's got comedy, it's got pathos, it's got honesty. I'm writing from my heart, blah blah blah. But then I think the thing that swung it is that when I sent it off, they said, "Oh, you live in Manchester. We're going to be auditioning at the Lowry," and I said, "Absolutely not." I said, "If I'm going to audition, I'm going to do it at the London Palladium because it's been, I think, every entertainer's dream is to walk on those boards. I mean, to tread the same path as Charlie Chaplin and Morecambe and Wise and Tommy Cooper. All my heroes had been on that stage." And I'm the age I am. I thought nobody's going to offer me my own show at the Palladium unless I get a bit proactive about it and try and get myself on there. So that was it. That was my sole reason really for auditioning for the show, just to say that I'd been on stage at the Palladium. So we traveled down to London with the family, and it went a bit crazy. I mean, I'd never performed the song before, so I didn't even know how that was going to go. It was written for that event, so it wasn't like I could rehearse it. It was written about the judges and about. So it was probably the most nerve-wracking night in my life, I imagine. But I got to play the Palladium, so that's what swung it for me. I certainly didn't go into it thinking this is going to change my career. Honestly,
that's a phenomenal way of going into it. Is you basically leveled out your expectations and you went for experience instead. So if you lower your expectations and go for experience and gratitude, then you're not gonna be let down. That's a phenomenal way of looking at it.
Yeah.
That really is. So the title, because I mean there was a lot going on at that point. Not only have you took yourself out of your comfort zone to go for because it is taken out of your comfort zone. You've been going through the motion of the ocean, if you like, excuse the pun. You've took yourself out of your comfort zone. You've got yourself into that position. And then I was watching one of your interviews. Skin cancer, I believe. You got diagnosed with skin cancer.
Yeah, it was that's what really sort of changed the whole thing for me. I mean, it was a mole on my head that I noticed in January, not long before my audition actually. And just, I shave my head when I shave my face. So I'm very much aware of every sort of spot and blemish on my head. And this new mole popped up and I was like, oh, that's suddenly, it was the three things. It suddenly appeared, it was a dark color and it was a weird shape. Any one of those things on a mole and you should have it checked out. And it was all three. And I just procrastinated. I mean, BGT happened and I just forgot about it. I mean, every time I shaved, I thought, oh, I must call my doctor and get that checked out. But I left it until June, basically. Obviously, I'm not blaming BGT, but we also didn't tell them. It was that my worst thought was that they'd find out about it and then they'd make it into my story, because they do like a good sob story. They're making a TV show at the end of the day.
They do like it's a good sob story.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And I'd waited my whole career for sort of trying to get a break, and then after as I say, filmed in January, so I knew I'd got the buzz and I knew I was going to be in the semi-finals. I imagine they would have loved it to be able to sort of break the headlines that Jon Courtney's Golden Buzzer has been diagnosed with skin cancer, but then it would become about that and not about the songs that I was writing. And I mean, imagine if I had won the show and that had been the headline. I'd never have known if I'd have won the show because of my talent or because people were sympathizing with me because I was going through. So it was, and it also wasn't something I wanted to share with anybody. It was just something that in June when I got it diagnosed, they found a melanoma, so they cut it out and they did a skin graft. An amazing surgeon who offered me I was the first person at Christie's to have this artificial skin graft. It was a trial that this guy had been offered, and it stops you having a dent in your head. Normally, if you see people, quite often it's very common, people that have had this operation, they have quite a big dent in their head where the skin is taken out. And he avoided that by using this artificial skin thing, which was incredible. I mean, it was just, he never watched TV, my consultant, but then one of his nurses was a big fan. And after sort of when it was broadcast, she mentioned it to him and he said, I understand you work on stage and you're in show business. And I said, yes. He said, I think I've got just the thing for you because I've been offered this free trial of this skin, which we haven't tried yet. Are you up for it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So that was amazing. And then they do what's called a sentinel node biopsy to make sure that it hasn't spread. They test all the nodes around the area. And if it's not in those nodes, then it hasn't spread. So it went on and it got delayed 3 times because of COVID. And that sort of coincided with the semi-finals and the finals, really. The operation wasn't until, when was the operation? Just before I did the BGT Christmas show. That's why I had a big Christmas hat on to hide the scars. It was after everything. And it was after the results were after the finals. And they said, you're clear. 22nd of December, they said, you're clear. It hasn't spread. So we had an amazing Christmas. And then, obviously everything was sort of happening. And then January, I was here in my studio. I was leaning on my neck, doing some work on the piano like that with my right hand. And I found another lump in my neck just down here. So called my consultant straight away and they rushed me and did an ultrasound and it was a tumor. Somehow they said they were all going like, well, we don't understand how it spread when we checked everything. And I went, I'm really glad that you don't understand, but how about we just cut it out now? Yeah, again, I mean, I can't thank them enough. The staff are incredible. But you know, things were delayed again because of COVID and the COVID tests. And obviously it's a cancer hospital. So it was ongoing. So in March, I had a radical neck dissection. That's what they call it. So 59 stitches from the top of my head down to my shoulder blade. And they removed, I set a record, apparently. My consultant said they took out 89 lymph nodes, which is the most they've ever taken out of anybody. So, and it all, it coincided with everything, really. It coincided with the Christmas show, with Ant and Dex Saturday Night Takeaway. It was all sort of ongoing. And it wasn't, I don't think I really understood how it was affecting me until that nurse, this senior nurse who took a liking to me, bless her. She's so lovely. And she said, I've been doing this for 15 years, she said, and I don't think I've met anybody who's at the height of their career and the lowest point of their health. She said, you must be so scared. And I broke down. I mean, she absolutely hit it had been tearing me apart. I was trying to enjoy the moment and go with, you know, this incredible career. But at the end of the day, your health's everything. Without your health, the career thing didn't matter. So, And you know, while we're talking about, I mean, this is all about men talking and stuff. I'm generally the most optimistic, happiest guy. I'm the guy that if you're feeling a bit down, I'm the guy that will just say, "Come on, it's good." You know, I'm a pep talker, and I've always been like that. It's not a forced thing. I'm generally, I look forward and I'm happy because I don't want to be the alternative. But the cancer and the thought that long term of waiting what was going to happen took me to some horrible dark places. I had a therapist for a while through Macmillan, who ironically I'd done a campaign with. Once I got the all clear for the first one, I contacted Macmillan and said, can I help to get this word out there? You know, now I've got this little platform, and I wrote a thing called the Mole Song, and we went on This Morning and Lorraine, all that stuff, and did all and that was incredible. The feedback from that was absolutely mind-blowing and very humbling. The people that got in touch because they heard this silly little 60-second song that I'd written and ended up going to their doctors to get moles checked, and a few people got it caught. And contacted me, or a couple of surgeons contacted me and said, I thought you might like to know that my patient heard your song and that's why he came in and we've just stopped this cancer. So, I mean, I was a wreck every time I heard those stories. It was just ridiculous. But for me, I had to call Macmillan after all that. Obviously, it's in confidence. And I said, I think I need to speak to someone. I said, because I'm crying myself to sleep at night when everybody else is asleep. And I'm scared. I'm really, really scared that I've got to tell my kids that I'm going to die. I mean, that's where I was in my darkest moments. You can't help it.
No.
You know, I'm not that guy. I don't think the glass is half empty, but that's where it took me. That's how I felt. So I had to deal with that, and it was a real eye opener. I think I was more scared that I wasn't going to get the old me back again. I thought I was going to go through this experience and I was going to be changed because of it, not in a good way. But in fact, it changed me in the best of ways. You know, you end up appreciating everything just that little bit more. So I feel like I've been talking for half an hour and that's the end of the radio show. Okay, goodbye.
no, because that's the whole premise of the radio show, and that's why I've been doing Monkey Mind relaxation for the past, I think it's about past 18 months. I've been working with clients now on getting men. Actually, believe it or not, I was very happy to get asked to be one of the hosts at Men's Radio Station. But most of my clients are actually ladies. And I think ladies are very much more open to having a chat with life coaches and with therapists and say, I think there's something going on and I need to work on this. But gentlemen, guys, we don't. I know that for a fact. I know that from a lot of the male clients that I have, that we get stuck. We get stuck because we are the providers. I think that's a really way when we're providing, especially the situation you've got yourself into, John. You've not only got this platform you've been able to stand on, but you're the provider of the family. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, I've had all these lymph nodes took out, it's absolutely going to take you to a dark place because you're the provider of that family. So that weighs on you. That just does weigh. And that's that monkey mind. That's that conversation, that internal chatter that gentlemen are not open to talk about because there's still that fallacy sometimes of men shouldn't be talking. And that's why we love this radio station, because it's where men really do talk. And that's why we got you on the show.
I think for men, there's this stigma that it makes you weak if you show your feelings. I've never subscribed to that. I mean, my wife will tell you I'm the one that shows my feelings in the house and wears my heart on my sleeve and says, you know, but you know, that's who I am. I'm definitely not your typical bloke. I mean, in so many ways, my wife will tell you I'm just not. I don't like football. I like shopping. I own more pairs of shoes than my wife does. I've always said if it wasn't for the fact that I don't really like other willies, I'd probably be gay. But I'm just that sort of sensitive, overly sensitive sometimes chap. But you know, that isn't the norm. I think a lot of guys, if they talk about their feelings, especially to other guys, you don't sort of phone your mate up and say, can we go for a beer so I can talk to you? And then you go out and talk about your feelings. That is generally not how it happens. I've been very lucky in my life. I've probably had more female friends than male friends. So it is easier for me to be able to sort of confide in a female friend, I guess, maybe than male friends. I don't know. I don't know how it works for everybody, but I do know that if more of us come forward and just sort of say, look, just it's okay to talk about it, whoever you're going to talk to, and God, it makes you feel better. I mean, you know, the few people that I did confide in, sort of carefully chosen, whatever, and the therapist I spoke to, my God, I don't know how I'd have got through it without them, really. Just people to listen to you talking about how you're feeling and stuff. And as soon as you say it out loud, sometimes, you know, it lessens the impact of it and stuff. So, yeah, I can't stress it enough. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's certainly that release, and that's a beautiful thing. It genuinely is, guys talking about all those things. So, you are basically on this UK tour now. This UK tour, I believe I was reading up. You've got a CD coming out, or it's already out.
It's out, yeah. We recorded my first studio album, recorded with Robbie Williams' sound engineer. It was very cool. Yeah,
is that on the CD title? Recorded with Robbie Williams.
No, it
small
should be,
text sound engineer.
Every time in my show when I advertise it, I just add that because it's become part of the thing now to sort of say I recorded a studio album with Robbie's sound engineer. I think I get to with Robbie and I slow down a bit so people go, oh, with Robbie Williams? No, with Robbie Williams' sound engineer. But you know, it's I'm proud of it. We recorded all the BGT stuff plus all the other stuff that I've been writing during lockdown. I've been I had a bit of extra time after winning. Before they kicked me out on the road to do the theatre tour. So I had time to write lots of new stuff and work on the tour show as well, which was fun.
And I was going to ask about the creativity. Now, I always come from a place from meditation. A lot of the creativity that I've ever had in the past has come once I've been able to sit and meditate, let all those thoughts pass, let them go. The amount of things, the creativity that comes to us is unbelievable when we've not got those blocks. Now, you are an extremely creative person. Now, with everything, with that time that you were going through from Britain's Got Talent to cancer, because COVID hit at the same time as well. So that was actually a massive part of this is COVID hit. Now, for entertainers, that was it was devastating, absolutely devastating. So you've got that anchor to be able to hold on to, which was Britain's Got Talent. You'd already known you'd got the golden buzzer, so that you are genuinely on this roller coaster of, oh, my life's great, oh, I've got a golden buzzer, oh, no, oh my God, I've got something up on my head, oh, I've got this and that, oh, it's that.
Excuse me. Yeah,
it's okay.
Roller coaster is the right word for it. Yeah. Yeah, I've been asked a few times, what was it like winning Britain's Got Talent during lockdown? And my answer's always been the same. Well, I don't know what it's like winning Britain's Got Talent when it's not lockdown. I can only imagine that it's a bit more manic, that, you know, as soon as you've won, the tour promoter is banging on your door saying, come on, let's sell tickets, let's get the theatre. And I'm quite lucky in that I have had a theatre show for a long time. But in actual fact, my theatre tour that I'm doing now is probably only 20% stuff that I've done over the years. It's pretty much a whole new show, most of which I wrote during lockdown. So apart from all the BGT stuff, there's a bunch of other stuff in there, and so yeah, it's I don't know. I mentioned earlier that the ticket sales are not what they were expected to be without COVID. But at no point have I taken it personally. I mean, it's, you know, we're not, whereas maybe the theaters might have sold out before. There was even talk about delaying it again, you know, to 2022. But I said, no, we've got, as long as somebody comes, I said, you know, it's fine. Let's get out there and sort of start getting back to some sort of normal. And it isn't just the performers, it's the audiences, you know, I think they've missed it maybe not as much as we have because it's our lifeblood really, but especially comedy shows. There's something about a bunch of strangers in a room together laughing, which you can't get that. You don't get that feeling anywhere else, whether it's a small comedy club or the London Palladium, and a theatre laughing and feeling happy together with a bunch of strangers, and then leaving the theatre. That's the thing as well. When you leave the theatre, that was my whole idea of my tour show. I mean, I'm not your nitty gritty political shock jock trying to, that's never been me. That's not sort of my, as trite as it sounds, I want people to leave the theatre feeling good and happy and optimistic, and so that's what the show's all about, really. And the feedback seems to have achieved that, according to people that have seen it, at least. That's good.
And I was going to ask you, because I keep looking at but you've got nothing. Scotland, you're not popping up to Scotland, because I was like,
oh, don't get me started. I'm in so much trouble with some Scottish fans. Yeah. Well, let me just say, first of all, to any Scottish people that might be listening, I don't have any control over the theatres I'm going in. I know that they tried loads of theatres everywhere. A lot of theatres had issues because there were a lot of tours from 2020 which have carried on over that got cancelled, that have carried over to 20. So a lot of theatres just literally didn't have the space available, the bookings available. And I think with Scotland, they try and book sections. It makes sense. You don't want to be doing Portsmouth on a Friday and Edinburgh on a Saturday and then Isle of Wight on a Saturday. It just doesn't make sense. You got to try. And I think they had there were 2 Scottish dates at different sides or ends of Scotland, and it just didn't fit in with the rest of the tour. There's no way we could have made it, So my hope is the same with Northern Ireland and the same with Wales. I'm doing Carmarthen in a couple of days. That's my only Welsh date. So yeah, my silver lining of all this is that because the theatres haven't sold out, I'm thinking 2022. We've got scope to do another tour, and I haven't got to write a whole new show because we're going to do all the theatres. We'll try and get to all the theatres that we didn't get to this year and all the audience that we didn't get to this year. That's the plan. So yeah, Scotland 2022, hopefully.
That's nice. Veronica is one of our listeners. She's just written in a comment, and this panged one of my heartstrings, in all fairness. So hopefully it'll pang one of yours, John. It says, you gave us a belly laugh at the time. It was so needed. So when COVID was going on, the whole Britain's Got Talent genuinely, it did lift the nation. It lifted the nation. Even I would say that from a person watching the TV. And when you were doing your songs on stage, and there was such an emotional connection, and that's that vulnerability that you talked about. And for us guys being vulnerable, I think it's a massive thing for moving forward, and gentlemen being more vulnerable. I do, and you put that into your shows, John. I mean, it's clear. It's clear every time you get out there and you do your songs. It's phenomenal. It's quite a skill that you have. It is. And Veronica just wanted to say thank you. You give us a belly laugh at the time when it was so much needed. Definitely deserved.
That's lovely. Thanks, Veronica. I just saw her comment about the Fringe. I'm doing the Fringe, Veronica. I'm coming up. I'm doing the Fringe next year. That's the plan at the moment. I'm writing a rather strange one-man musical, actually, about comedy and cancer, and it's going to be. I know it's weird, but it's gonna work. I've just started sort of writing it, and hopefully it's funnier than it sounds. And I'm doing the Fringe next year. That's the plan. So if you are in Scotland, Veronica, then come catch me in Edinburgh next year. Yeah.
Nice, at the Fringe. That's absolutely fantastic. We also got Jane Sanford listening, one of my close personal friends, and she was saying, "Ouch." When you were talking about how many of those lymph nodes you had took out.
Yeah, I was fast asleep. I knew nothing about it. It's all good. It was quite interesting when the consultant was saying to me what the plan was. He said, it's quite a large tumor that they found, and they said it's lymph nodes that it's that the cancer's attacked. So we're going to just make sure. And then they tell you all the possible side effects, and he said we're going to have to cut basically from here. To people that can't see, sorry, from sort of just behind my ear down to the end of my shoulder. And he said it may be that that's probably going to be a numb area, but also you might not be able to raise your arm. We might damage nerves. We might paralyze half your face. This is all the sort of worst case scenarios. And I'm listening to all this, and I said, can I just ask what the option is if you don't do the operation? He said, well, we can try and attack it with, chemo and stuff like that. He said, but it looks like quite a large tumor. Ideally, we want to cut it out. And I said, well, it doesn't matter what the side effect, as long as I'm alive. I mean, that really put it into a lot of perspective for me. I was like, I mean, I think my consultant was quite worried at that point when he realized that, because obviously this was after BGT. It was in March when I had the operation. So obviously, I was out there a bit more now, and I was a bit more exposure and stuff. And I think I'm sure I signed something telling my consultant that it wasn't his fault if he ruined my career now that I'd finally got a break in my career. That's what I'm worried about, I guess. But I said, this is not an option. I said, just do the operation. I said, what's the worst that can happen, sort of thing. It isn't as bad as the worst that can happen if you don't do it. So that sort of calmed me down quite a bit, really, when, you don't worry about the side effects when you just realize it's quite black and white. It's not it's got to get it done. So yeah, it was good. I went fast asleep and woke up, and I remember coming around, and I remember the consultant leaning over and saying, "Can you smile?" And I was thinking, what have I got to smile? Why is he asking me to smile? And of course he wanted to check that he hadn't paralyzed my face. And he said, "Okay, that's a nice smile." And then I just zonked out again. I don't remember much else. So yeah.
That's amazing. So now, from what I know of you, Jon, as well, you've always championed other people.
Okay, where's this going?
No, because it's not that. But you are the kind of gentleman that always champions other people.
Oh, of course.
So when you touched on it as well, that you've always been the kind of the pep guy, the one that's, oh, come on, we can get through this and all that. So you've always championed everyone around you. I've always known that about you. Mm-hmm. How have you found that since you've gotten yourself into the position that you are now? Have you found that people are still championing you, or do you find that you've maybe lost some of the people that were around you? Has anything changed with the way that things you're living life now?
That's an interesting question. I haven't really thought. Honestly, no. I think I'm quite lucky that I've got quite a small, close circle of very close friends. Yeah. I've got lots of colleagues out there that I've worked with, and only a very few people would I cross the road to avoid. I'm quite proud to say. In fact, I can only think of two that I would actually sort of cross the road because they've either tried to cause me grief in my life or whatever the reason. I tend to try and surround myself with happy, like-minded people, because that's the best way to live your life, isn't it? I'm quite lucky that the few people around me that are my sort of closest friends have done nothing but be proud of me, and they knew what I was going through as well. So it's been incredible. I haven't really had any bad backlash from anybody, not unless people are hiding it from me really well. I haven't. There was a couple of comments from a couple of people online that, whatever, I don't even waste time. Well, I did saying that there is a song in my show. The BGT warn you about the social media thing, because like you, I've always been on it. It's sort of a necessary evil in this business. I'm not a fan of it. I never really have been a fan of it. I'd rather have face-to-face than a social media thing. But and I've never been very good at it. And the BGT warn you as soon as you audition. They say, there are trolls out there that are going to write nasty stuff about you no matter what you do. So just be prepared for it. And I read a couple of things just after my audition got broadcast. And I've made it a bit in my show because I ended up writing a song about it. And somebody wrote on Twitter, he's just a baldy with a buzzer, which I thought was quite funny. The alliteration of the. So I wrote a song called "Baldy with a Buzzer," and the song basically uses every negative comment that I could find about me, which wasn't a fun research project, by the way. Actually writing the song wasn't fun, but every time I do it, it's sort of the audience laugh and I laugh, and it takes some of the power away from some of these people. And it wasn't really bad stuff. It was just there are people out there that want to have their say behind their keyboard, sort of thing. So yeah, I wrote a song called "Baldy with the Buzzer," and I talk about social media in the show. But that's it. It doesn't matter. I don't know them. I'll never see them. I presume they're not going to be in my audience. If they didn't like me, they're not going to buy a ticket. So, it hasn't. I think I've been quite lucky. Generally, everybody I've spoken to, every comment has been pretty positive, which is lovely. So.
Yeah, because when that's you've in a way you've changed your social structure. You've gone up into the mainstream. So that's when the claws come out sometimes, that jealousy comes out, and that's the reason that question was there. But I just know that you've always championed everyone, and from an outsider, because that's when it's the reason I want this conversation about the cancer and winning BGT and everything that you went through. That was kind of actually a tough year. I mean, that was everything thrown at any human being in a short space of 6 months, from complete exhilaration to absolutely the depths, and that would take its toll on absolutely everybody. I mean, it would.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think even without the cancer, I think the stress of COVID, which, you know, I've got a young family and I've got elderly relatives. So like BGT was great. But like I say, I mean, the one thing the cancer scare taught me is that nothing else matters. It's a cliche now, you know, without your health, you've got nothing. It's so true. It doesn't matter. Look at Steve Jobs. I mean, all the money in the world, and he said he'd have given it away the next day if he could have lived longer. That was, it doesn't matter. You got to look after yourself. And so, yeah, as good as BGT was, that didn't compensate for me thinking that I was going to die, if you like. It wasn't a, oh, well, I've got BGT. It doesn't work like that. So I think even at the cancer, I think the stress of COVID, you know, it was such a weird time for us all. And the fact that nobody knew what was on the horizon. There wasn't sort of a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, it was like, I wrote a couple of things, put stuff out there on YouTube, whatever, sort of during that time. One of them was called It'll Be All Right. You know, when the Queen said, we'll meet again in her speech, which I thought was a very poignant, especially as Dame Vera Lynn. I don't know if she died at that point or sometime around there. So I wrote this thing to the tune of We'll Meet Again. And it was for me, really, and sort of my closest friends, some of whom were suffering, whether it was financially or mentally or physically.
Yeah.
And it was this sort of optimistic song to the tune of We'll Meet Again, which I'd actually, until just now, I'd forgotten about it. So I must dig that out because that would go quite well in the show. So yeah, things like that, just to sort of try and stay optimistic. But that was important, I think. Yeah.
And I think the biggest takeaway is that you spoke to someone. That was a huge part of it, as well as you went and said, I need to speak to someone. And that's that vulnerability that we talk about, of holding his hands up and saying, do you know what? I don't know what I'm doing. There's something going on. So that's I wish I could pat you on the back. That's what it's all about, is getting that message out and things like that. So the tour's going well. Love the tour. How do we get your music?
Well, you if you want a physical copy, if you're still a person that plays physical CDs, which if you've got one in your car, you can get a physical copy from my website. And if you put a note on the order, I can sign it for you and dedicate whatever. But you can download it as well from all the usual, wherever you download your music from, whether it's Apple or Amazon or Spotify. I'm all those places too. And it's, what's it called? It's called What It's All About. Well, no, there's a reason that we changed the name of the tour halfway through I thought I had a copy here, but I haven't. It's in the cupboard over there. Yeah, the tour was called What's It All About, which I thought sort of tied in with my two songs, because in my audition song I sung my son Alfie, What's It All About, from the song, and then I repeated it in the final song. So somebody pointed out that you don't want a title of a tour that can be used negatively by a critic who doesn't enjoy it, because they could say, you're right, what is it all about? So we just changed it to Jon Courtney Live, by which time we'd already sent all the stuff to print for the CD, and the CD is called What It's All About. So it answers the question. I was trying to be far too clever. It's a CD of some, if you want to get it, you can order it online. Yeah, I know. I was overthinking it way too much, but yeah. Anyway, it's out there, and hopefully we'll have a DVD or a download, because nobody does DVDs anymore. A download of the theatre show as well. We're filming it for the last night at the Lowry. I've only got four gigs left. We're doing Crewe, Carmarthen, Peterborough, and Salford. If anybody's in any of those areas. And then the last night when we do the Lowry, I think we're almost sold out. So we're getting a production company in to film that, and hopefully make it available for a download and that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. That's brilliant. Now, Veronica's asking, I would like a hard copy. I bet she would. Life's difficult, and she... Sorry, Veronica. It was there for the taking. I do apologize. I would like a hard copy. Life's difficult and need the fun and reality. Absolutely. So get to Spotify, any of those retail places. Oh, but she wants a hard copy. So,
yeah, hard copy is joncourtney.com, and there's a shop on there. You can buy tote bags and mugs, and I'm a one-man cottage industry. I've got merch now, Cuddy. I've never had merch before. So yeah, and the CD's on there, and then when you order it on PayPal, on the notes if you want it, if you want it signed, Ron, just let me know it's you, and I can personalize it and do whatever before it gets sent off. So yeah.
Merch. See, when you mentioned merch there, all I was thinking of is a golden buzzer of your head for the Baldy buzzer comment.
Somebody did that. They photoshopped my head into a golden buzzer. Yeah.
And you could honestly do it for the cancer with just a little divot in it as well, just for the cancer as well.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Honestly, Jon, I can't say thank you enough for taking time out. And I know you're a bit under the weather and you've got your shows going on. So quickly, what's happening for 2022 for you? The Christmas season's coming up. So what's happening over the Christmas season for you?
Well, actually, purposefully a little bit quiet. I'm taking a lot of the family away on holiday. We're going to Florida in the end of November. So that sort of put pay to Panto. We were talking about some Panto stuff, but I've decided to bugger off during Panto rehearsal season. So Panto will be 2022. I don't know where yet, but we'll be getting involved with that. Got a few things over Christmas, a few of the corporate stuff going on and Christmas parties and that sort of thing. And then 2022, well, Edinburgh, as I say, that's going to be fun in August. We've got potentially some TV stuff happening earlier in the year, which we're still talking about, and I'm not meant to talk about. Blah blah blah. It's all sort of quite. It's exciting, really. It's quite a change from back in the days when I was doing the ships, because by this time of the year, my next year would be fully booked. I'd know where I'm going to be literally this time next year. And now I've got no idea, but I'm told that it's going to be fine. My manager says, "Don't worry, it's going to be fine." Yes, we shall see.
The mere word of "don't worry," it just stimulates, especially that monkey mind going, "Well, I wasn't going to worry until you said don't worry. So why
exactly
should I worry?
Yeah,
because you said don't worry."
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Jon.
My pleasure, Cuddy. Thanks for inviting me onto the show.
Not a problem at all. Veronica, I'm sure, is absolutely over the moon that you've been on the show. Veronica is our one consistent listener, but
you're one consistent listener. Oh dear, that's not good. We like you, Veronica.
and Veronica is all the way from Edinburgh. She's just over the water because I'm up in Scotland, like I said. So literally, when I point to Veronica, she is as the crow flies. She's just over there. So hi to Veronica. I'm sure she's going to scooch onto your website. Get yourself rested up.
It looks like Jane's a regular. It's Veronica and Jane in all the comments. I see. Jane says nobody ever comes to Cornwall. I don't think that's true. I think people in Cornwall complain because everybody goes to Cornwall, don't they? Isn't that a problem? Everybody goes to holiday. No, I've got no shows in Cornwall. You're quite right. But as I say, watch this space. 2022. I love it down there. I'll come down and have a pasty, do a show for you. That'd be cool.
2022 is the year for Cornwall gigs. I just got a feeling.
Cornwall and Scotland. That sounds like a great plan. Yeah. I'll just go back and forth.
Well, love to the family, because you are an extreme family man. We know that. All your Instagram, if everybody wants to follow you on Instagram and all the socials, so much about how actually, before you go, we've got a few minutes left. How has it changed for your kids' life?
I don't think it has too much. Alfie plays he's got a VR headset, these virtual reality things, and he plays online with people and sword fights, whatever he does. And every now and then we'll be in the lounge and he'll be playing in his bedroom and we'll hear this conversation going, he's fighting, he's going, yeah, take that. And then he'll suddenly say, did you watch BGT last year? And then we can't hear the other side of the conversation. So he says, did you watch BGT last year? Then there's a pause. And then he said, the guy that won it, that's my dad. And then there's another pause. And then he says, yes, it is. Yeah, I'm telling you, it is. And then I get shouted, Dad. So I have to come up and put the VR headset on and acknowledge that I am his dad, which is really cute because he's still proud of it and stuff, But no, I mean, Nathan keeps bugging me to come to more celebrity events. And I took Emma to the NTAs a few weeks ago, and that was amazing. And Nathan was sulking because he didn't come to it. And then we're going to the Royal Variety Show in a couple of weeks, actually, 18th of November. We got tickets for that. He's upset that he doesn't get to come to any of these star-studded celebrity events, but yeah.
I love it. Every time I love it. Every time I see your post on Instagram, I'm like, that's Jon Courtney! I know Jon Courtney! He made it!
And here we are chatting on the radio. Who'd have ever thought it, Cuddy?
Absolutely. I know how times have changed. Always for the better. Always for the better.
Always moving forward. That's the thing.
There's no point going backwards. You're 100% right there, Mr. Courtney. Well, thank you so much for joining in. Big love from me, as always, mate. And if there's anything that you need or I can help you with joke writing or any more shows or producing, don't come to me.
Okay, good plan. Thanks, Cuddy.
Jon,
Cheers,
thank you
mate.
so much, mate. Much appreciated. Thank you to Cena. Cena's going to probably let you go now. Much appreciated, mate. An absolutely fantastic story. I'm sure you will all agree. And a massive thank you to Jon for being able to give us this time. I mean, that's a huge conversation. That's a huge conversation to have for gentlemen to be listening to about that vulnerability. Vulnerability. It's something that we struggle to show as men. And there's, I think, even recently, I don't know if anybody follows The Rock in America or anything like that, but that vulnerability and being able to show your vulnerability as a man by saying, do you know what? I'm not 100% sure I know what's going on at this point in time. I've got this absolute pressure across my chest that I just can't breathe and I can't talk. And it does often pop up that when you're trying to talk with family or with friends, and a lot of people say, you'll be fine. You'll get over it. Just give it time. It's not always about giving it time. It's about being able to speak to someone. You know, you can see as many positive Facebook posts as you want. There's Facebook groups everywhere. But when you're reading those positive Facebook posts of your thoughts and all these kind of things, and they say it's all right seeing it on a post. Trust me when I tell you this. There's a lot of people that are posting these things on their social media that are probably not meaning it. They're not meaning it. They're putting it down there and they're posting. And we just the comparisons that we draw by looking on everyone posting all these positive things and thinking, well, why am I not so positive? Why am I the one that's struggling? And we create these beliefs within ourselves, and these beliefs come from our comparisons. So we're looking at this social media world where everyone's posting these great pics and these great lifestyles, and I'm so happy because this is happening for me. It's not always true, ladies and gentlemen. And I mean that sincerely. It's not always true. And that's why social media has so many great benefits, but you just being able to reach out, and there's so many avenues these days. I mean, not only have we got the men's radio station, there's the women's radio station. There is some phenomenal radio hosts, starting all the way at the top with Russ, a show which is a phenomenal show for you to be able to tune in. I know Veronica's a keen listener to a lot of the shows that we have there. There is Dr. Pam Spur is another one of those fantastic hosts. Reading between the lines, I've even checked out that radio show, which has always got such a great tone to it, reading the signs. It's a phenomenal radio show. Please check out. There's so many more things that you can be podcasts. There's so many great things to be listening to in podcasts. I would always try and give people those little bit of a tips. And I did mention this at this time of year when the sunlight starts getting less. We're going to do a time change on Saturday night into Sunday, which means we get 1 hour less. So the sun starts disappearing. We know this. Everybody knows this. But at this time of year, your mental health can, and a lot of the times, gets affected. It gets affected. It's a thing, seasonally affected depression that happens that when we're not getting enough sun and we're not getting. So if you're going to work in the morning, it's dark, and then you're in the office all day at nighttime, and then you go and finish work at nighttime, and it's dark again, it can start playing havoc on your mental health. So really being aware with that and getting yourself to the sunlight when you can, getting out to the world is opening up again. Let's hope it's onwards and upwards from here. An amazing show. Oh, thank you so much, Veronica. Much appreciated. Now the world is opening up, which is a good thing, hopefully moving forward. But you know, as the world does start opening up, that's going to create more anxiousness and anxiety with people because we've been fed this fear of COVID and everything that's going on, and it does play on people's mindsets in men and ladies, and it's something that we have to be aware of, especially coming out of COVID. It all stems from fear. It stems from a fear that we've had, and that's why we have to be careful. And I would say that being very careful by watching news outlets. There's a lot of the times the stuff that's on the news that's not always what we need to be hearing at certain times, but all this information coming in, even if it's on your social media, and Jon touched on it as well, is that he had a very tight community of friends who were there for him, and he maybe wasn't around people that weren't there for him. And that's a really kind of cool way to look at it as well, is to really that self-care is such an important thing, and it's important for guys as well. And that self-care is such an important. And this time of year, especially with the depression, you can get yourself out and start focusing. It's such a huge thing to do. Is start focusing on what you can do, not what you can't do. I'm going to say that one more time. Focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. It's a huge thing to be wary of. Now, I know I've got down to the last few things. So if that's one thing you can take away from this show, not only a fantastic show with Jon Courtney, is focus on what you can do, not what you can't. That simple focus, because if you keep focusing on what you can't do, boom, you're heading down to a depression and that downward spiral. Big love from Cuddy.